Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to summer, which is a fantastic thing. Obviously, people are moaning in the UK because it's hot. But we've got a gentleman who actually is based in Spain, uh, Julio, who has a fantastic company called Hallam. Julio, tell us all about the company.
Hey Tim, I'm glad you're getting a bit of the weather, rather than me having it all to myself. So Hallam is a digital marketing agency, performance marketing, actually, and it's been around for a while now. It got founded in 2001. So the company has 20 nearly 24 years of history, and it's quite rare in our industry actually to have survived this long as a marketing agency, but also to have started so early, because a lot of the things that we do today in digital marketing didn't exist back then. So, our business is one of constant change, constant evolution, and that's something that we're very comfortable with. What we do is we help companies grow, we help companies succeed through digital marketing. So things like SEO, paid media, web, brand, those are the main four components of what we deliver. And our job is to help our brands help our clients build better brands, get more customers, and grow their revenues.
And just to make it clear, though obviously you're based in Spain yourself, the business is actually based in Nottingham and London, in fact,
The
UK and
company, yeah,
globally. Yeah,
exactly. The company was founded in Nottingham, um, and was the only location we had was Nottingham for a very long time. And then during the pandemic, we began to hire people from around the UK, and we adopted a remote work policy that allowed people to work from anywhere. So what's happened, kind of organically, really, not really by design, but organically, the company has simply just become national in terms of footprint, because we've got people in more or less every general area, of the UK and beyond. And therefore, yes, we are a Nottingham company. Our legal address is in Nottingham, but nearly half of the people we employ are not based in the city. And frankly, it's kind of location is kind of irrelevant now. We hire the best people. We have a really great hybrid working model where we get almost everything done remotely, and it works. And yeah, so that's we also have an office in London, and I'm personally based in Spain. I came back 3 years ago due to family reasons, but I'm like I said, I work remotely and I travel to the UK often. I'm in London every month and so on. It's one of the benefits of this sort of modern hybrid evolution of work, is you can be hypermobile, you can be flexible with your location, which is good. Very grateful for that.
no, that's one of the big changes, and especially in service industry, the creative industry as a whole, because you actually can then widen the talent pool, can't you?
Yeah, definitely. I think the other thing that's happening is that the talent pool is moving to the places where they want to live.
Yeah,
So we're finding people in Devon, Cornwall, places where normally people would leave those places to get jobs. Some people are moving to those places because they know they can get remote jobs. So if I would actually say, if you don't have a good remote work policy, you are definitely missing out on good people.
that's a really interesting point, and that's a great share and a great learning for everybody because it is a change in culture where I say the younger generation. I mean, sort of, I'm not that old, but even so, the 20s, 30s are looking at lifestyle as well as work style, aren't they?
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And I think the chances of a really talented engineer or designer, whatever role, moving to Nottingham for a job are very low now.
Yeah, that's a really
People don't do that anymore. Like, some people do it, and there are still cases, but previously, if you wanted a job at Hallam and Hallam was in Nottingham, you had to relocate,
yeah,
or you got to work somewhere else.
yeah.
That's no longer the case. So if you're a very senior, experienced person with skill set, you and a company with a good remote policy offers you a job, and the ability to work to live where you want to live, that's where people are going to go and work. So I would say remote work is a significant competitive advantage when it comes to recruitment.
That is a really interesting point and a very valid one. So, company has been going quite some time, 2001, I think said. What have you personally seen as the biggest changes in the organisation and the market itself? I mean, I know there's been huge changes, but it'd be great to hear from the experts.
Well, we've gone from a world where digital marketing was a component of the economy to the point where it is the economy, right? So digital, in the early 2000s, or the beginning of the internet era, pre 2008, the internet was something that existed. Businesses hadn't quite figured out how to make it work for them.
Mm.
Some people were venturing, and it was a component. It was a part of their how, kind of similar to how people see AI now. They were like, how are we going to make this work? We should keep an eye on it, invest in it a little bit. 2008, the global economic crisis created two things. One of them is it destroyed a lot of traditional business away from the high street, and it moved a lot of that business online. But also things like Amazon, Google became very prominent.
Yeah.
Facebook began around that time as well. So what we had in that time was like the birth of like this Web 2.0 world, in which digital suddenly was not just something new, but it was something that was just how the economy began to work. So digital marketing became a significant part of marketing budgets, business plan, and so on. What you've seen now since the pandemic, 2019, 2020, is that digital is the marketing strategy, and it is the business plan, and it is central to everything. Where I would argue that the vast majority of customers that are not reliant on a local footprint of customers are almost exclusively reliant on the internet for their new business and business growth, whether it's a contact form, e-commerce, whatever it might be, Google searches, and so on. People don't use the yellow pages. People don't use local catalogs anymore. People use the internet. So digital marketing is the strategy for everything. So our business has gone from being a peripheral new invention in the early 2000s to being the central component of how businesses work.
That is really, really quite interesting and a fantastic summary of what's actually happened over the years. So, where are we going next, Julia?
Well, I think it's two things. I think very similar to the rise of computers themselves, right? So in the early days of computing, an office may have one computer. To them having an outsourced computer company, support or whatever it might be, helping them. Most companies now have their own IT departments in-house, right? So what we're going to see next is companies becoming more digitally aware, recruiting more and more people who know what they're doing, and doing a lot of this stuff themselves. So it'll become so integrated in the way that business just operates, that digital will just be it over. I mean, it already kind of is, but it will just be entirely integrated into the way business operations run. So the role of our business, therefore, it will continue to change. It'll evolve towards being strategic advisors and uh, people who deliver training and deliver consulting services and those kind of things. Not so much doing it on behalf of people who have never done it before. I think that will probably go away. And then
Mhm.
the more likely scenario is we're either doing the very advanced stuff that's very difficult to do, or teaching them how to do it. That's probably the most likely. I think that's the most likely future that we'll see. Um, Similar to an organization, let's say a company with 100 employees will have a IT department now, or an accounting department now. But there are certain things within the field of accounting or IT that they'll require an external company to come in and do, because it's just very advanced, like a network installation, or like a cybersecurity audit, or you know something like that, a financial audit, something like that. So the job of our company will become will be that layer of complexity, the sort of top tier of advanced complexity stuff, not the basic things. Those are already the past, right? For most
Yeah.
businesses.
That's really interesting. AI. Now, everybody's been around. It's still here. It's never going to go away. People talk about the internet. Personally, I always remember going around the first Amazon warehouse in the UK. And stupidly, I never invested it. I always thought that 30 years ago or something. Sitting in a position of an SME, £2 million business, 20 odd employees, heard of AI. What do you think the effect will be on them for their business?
Well, there's two things. Some of the things that they do will be replaced by AI. So, for example, um, like for example, a lot of jobs like accounting, bookkeeping, social media management, those kind of things. A lot of the things that they do will just be incredibly fast and simple to do because of AI. It'll just do it for you. Like bookkeeping, almost certainly will be fully automated. The machines will just do it, right?
Yeah,
So some of those components will just disappear. They'll just go away. But that's the same thing as saying 200 years ago, we had people manually laboring in the fields, and now we have a tractor that does the work of 100 people.
yeah.
Same thing, right? So AI is a feature of work. It's the same as electricity. You just plug something in, it comes out of the plug. It'll be like that, right? So some of the things will just simply happen. And I think that's one side of it. And then the other side of it, I think, is it'll disrupt entire business models and entire industries completely will just be disrupted forever. I think there is a place in the very near future where entire sectors will disappear because there's no need for them, right? I read a great quote the other day saying AI will displace certain jobs that probably shouldn't have existed in the first place.
Hmm.
Like, for example, manually sorting through data, cleaning it up manually, and then pasting it into a spreadsheet. Like that's a job that job shouldn't exist. Now, obviously the great challenge, not that it shouldn't exist. Not, I mean, let me get this straight. It's not that people don't shouldn't have a job. That's not what I mean. It's that there's better things for people to be doing with their time that can create more for the economy than doing a manual task that a robot can do, right? Now, the great challenge for society, for governments, is what do you do with all these people, right? What do you do with all these people? Like, what are they going to do? That is a significant risk and a significant challenge that we need to negotiate, fix, and sort through. But I think for the average small business, I think there will be things that will be considerably faster that will simply just appear. So, for example, Microsoft Office and Microsoft Outlook already integrate some of these AI features, but you're
Hmm.
going to see it everywhere. You're going to see it in your accounting package. You're going to see it in your, in fact, effectively everything that is on a computer will have AI to some extent built into it. And that will just accelerate the pace of some of the things that currently happen.
So in effect, what we're talking about is that it'll actually enhance productivity within the business.
Yes, but it will also drive down the cost of production.
Yeah,
So the simple law of economics, what happens when the cost of production falls, there is more supply. When there's more supply, what happens to price?
yeah,
Comes down, right? So I think they will. This is what I said. My second point was there will be a major transformation of certain sectors. If
yeah.
there are things that, for example, here's another example. If you have a business that, for example, making business cards or making signs or making, print, that relies on like casual graphic design tasks, AI can do that already. You can feed it your logo, two things. That banner behind you, AI can do that in 3 seconds, right? So it's currently not that great, and I wouldn't trust an AI to do that because it'll be not very good. But we're only talking months away before that becomes completely just it's just normal, right? So what do you do in a world where instead of making 3 banners a day or 10 banners a day, you can make 100? So
Hmm.
that will just simply just change the economic drivers.
Hmm.
And that is the great disruption that's coming.
Yeah.
What I
That's
think is interesting though is people who have manual trades, electricians, plumbers, those they will thrive, right? Those are jobs that it's kind of where it's very unlikely AI will replace those jobs because you'll probably have some machines, I think, that will be able to do some of those jobs really, really efficiently, like bricklaying to some extent, maybe. But there's such a craft to that work, right? An electrician coming to your house, having a look, figuring out how the rewire is going to work. There's such a craft to that that you can't really automate that. So ironically, the jobs that 20, 30 years ago, people said, oh, if you don't know how to, if you don't know computing, you're screwed, you're not going to have a job. Ironically, that's the opposite now. The people who didn't learn computing are the ones that are going to have a job. And that's the cycle of how things work, right? This is why I never, ever buy into the hype of anything because it's cyclical.
yeah,
It's just cyclical, you know?
yeah, brilliant.
Uh, yeah, so yeah, I could go on for
No,
forever.
it's absolutely that's great share. So let's move away a bit. So when did you join Hallam?
So I was the founder of a web agency called Big Spring, which was actually based at Strelly Hall, where you are sat now. And my company merged with Hallam in 2017. So I founded my company, co-founded my company in 2008, and we ran it for about like 9 years, and then we merged with Hallam in 2017. So Hallam, as it is today, is actually the merger of two companies coming together.
Right,
So
that's really
it's been about seven years now.
fantastic. So from that, you set your own business up. You merged with Hallam to
Yeah.
make a larger business to actually um, encompass all aspects. What have been your biggest learnings as a business leader and a business owner since you began?
Culture is everything. Almost nothing is possible without a really good culture. The only alternative to culture, to a great culture, is force. And force is not sustainable in business, right? So building a great culture is how you get through things like the pandemic and financial situation, financial adversities or changes in technology, wherever it might be. And building a great culture is an incredibly difficult thing to do. Like values is something I say often is values is not something you write on the wall. Values is something you are. And I'm always very suspicious of companies that write their values on the wall. Because if you have to remind people visually that there's something wrong with that, they're not your lived behaviors. So
Yeah,
to some extent, the value should be a retrospective description on how you behave every day. It's not something to aim for, it's something you should already be, because it should be a description of your culture. So I'm not against values on the wall. Like, I mean, aesthetically, I think it's a bit tacky, but that's my personal opinion. But the point is, like, they are. It is the code of how you do everything. If how many people do you know? How many companies do you know that have a value that says transparency, integrity? Like, cool, but is that actually how you do things day to day? And like, what does that mean? What does integrity mean in a business context? So culture is the most important thing. Everything hinges around that. If you want to take people with you in a mission, if you want to convince people of a different direction, if you want to steer people through adversity, they have to have a reason to believe.
mm,
Money is not enough. Um, perks, benefits, that those are hygienic, external, extrinsic factors. There's an intrinsic reason to believe in a business that is ultimately its culture and its identity and its soul. And that's the most difficult thing, I think. So my big lesson is that actually, to answer your question directly, is the biggest learning of all is culture is everything. It is everything. Everything hinges off that.
that's a really good learning point for everybody. So going back, if you had to start from square one in business, what would you do differently?
But knowing what I know today,
Yeah.
I build an AI company. I'm buy shares in Amazon, right?
Yeah. Yes, don't mention that, Julia.
I think um, is one of the things we did very well actually is to build a company actually based on our values to begin with. We only had one value to when we first started, we only had one value. And the value was you have to love your job. You have to love your job. I remember when I lived in Nottingham, I remember I used to work at the QMC early in my career. And I remember I hated my job. It was awful. It was an awful job. And I remember being on the bus going around Maid Marian Way roundabout, going up Derby Road Hill, and I heard and the bus hit the tire hit the curb slightly, and the bus sort of like shook. And I remember thinking, I hope the bus crashes so that I don't have to go to work. And I was hoping that the bus would crash and that would be it. I wouldn't be able, I'd be able to call and say, sorry, I can't come, the bus crashed. And then immediately after that, I remember promising myself, you must never again feel like that. You must never have a job like that again. So my mission from that moment on was you need to love your job. You need to enjoy, you need to leave your house in the morning looking forward to being in a place where you're with your friends and you're doing things you enjoy. And that was our only rule. So I remember sitting with our guys, when we started hiring people and saying, listen, there's only one value. I want you to want to come to work in the morning. I need you to feel like that. Tell me, what do we need to do to make that happen? And that meant things like, we never ever have a dress code. You can wear whatever you want. Listen to music, do whatever you want. Have a lunch break, long lunch break, short. I don't care. Just do whatever you like. Obviously, not scalable, but back then, the most important thing was that you looked forward to being at work because it was a place that was fun. So that value isn't that great to build a company. I'm not saying that's how you should do it, but what's important is that that was how we built the company, that we built it around a belief, which is that you should deserve to enjoy your job. And
Yeah.
therefore, building your company around a belief is the most important thing. So I think going back to the very beginning, I would have been more focused on building those beliefs and really like building a company specifically to meet those beliefs. And I think that's a powerful thing. Think about like a company like Apple, how the attention to detail that they have, the incredible dedication that they have to designing and building the best products that they possibly can. That does not happen through supervision. And it doesn't happen through force or consequence or compliance. It happens because they believe in something that compels them to do it. And that's the power of culture and values, that is.
No, that's great. Yeah, that'd be lots of reflection there for me as well. So, moving on, busy guy, family. How do you balance your personal life with your business life?
I never work in the evenings or the weekends ever. It just has to wait.
So, we're talking discipline.
Just it has to wait. I never work on a weekend. Never. I haven't done it for 6 or 7 years now.
Yeah.
So that's the first rule. The other rule is I never let anybody do it. If I catch somebody at Hallam, and you can ask them anybody from Hallam this, if I happen to be on, if I just see somebody on Slack or somebody sends me a late Slack message or something, the first response is, "Why are you working late? You shouldn't be working late." Never ask anybody to work late. It starts with leadership. You have to do it. If you want the teams to have a work-life balance, you have to have a work-life balance.
Hmm.
Sending emails to your teams at like 9 p.m. on a Saturday is unbelievably toxic. It should never happen. You should never do it. So it starts with you. If you're the MD of a company and you are sending emails on weekends, you are creating a toxic work-life balance for everybody who works in your company. Because you're setting the standard, you're setting the pace, right?
And I suppose that's one of the reasons why you are growing as and have grown. as well.
We've always been able to, we have, over the last few years, not always, over the last few years, we've been able to attract really great people to the company because of our culture. So there are people who have joined us who have come from places where they did have to work through the night, and they did have to work on weekends, and they were expected to work however long it takes until the job's done, right? So being able to hire into that culture and being able to say to people, look, if you want to go finish at 3 because you've got kids, just do it. It's fine. As long as your work's done and your colleagues are happy, we don't care, right? So creating that culture means that it kind of becomes self-policing because people expect others to be high performing, but they also respect their boundaries, right? But that's why it's culture. It's not a rule. It's a culture. So
Mm.
there isn't a rule at Hallam that says you can't work late. That's not written anywhere. There is no policy. It's just our culture. It's just how we do things. We just don't do it.
That's really, it's an interesting thing. There's so many business owners and so many people in business. I suppose as well is that comes down to efficiency and productivity and focus as well. So you're actually getting the work you need to do in the appropriate amount of time.
Well, maybe not. I mean, maybe we're not the most productive, efficient company. We're not the most productive and efficient company in the world. That's for
Yeah,
sure. We're not. But at what cost, right? You So the
that's
cost is you are going to burn your people. They're going to be unhappy, and they're not going to see their kids. So that's the trade-off. Everything is a trade-off. So you can either get the job done by 9 p.m. or you can see your kids.
yeah.
Trade-off.
There's productivity and productivity. There's the productivity I'm talking about is not necessarily getting something done, but the productivity is to actually have the whole thing, whether it be a project, whether it be the organisation, whether it be the vision, etc., to complete, not get done. And there's a
Yes.
subtle
No, I
difference
get it. I get
between the
it.
two there.
Yeah, and there's an element of productivity, which is not necessarily put the hours in, just work smarter and get things done faster because but maybe we're not the best at that either. The reality is it doesn't matter because it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Because what actually matters is, do you like your job? Are you happy? This goes back to what I said before. Like that's the start. Do you like your job? If you don't like your job, then the rest of it is pointless because all you're going to be looking for is a reason to leave.
Yeah.
Therefore,
Interesting.
productivity is kind of pointless, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so we could debate that a bit, but I
I
think
mean, it depends. I mean, it depends where you subscribe to, like, the principles of capitalism, and you should deliver the maximum possible. I get it. Like, it makes sense. Totally, totally. I agree. At what cost? It's at a human cost usually. So it's a balance, right? It doesn't mean like, if you're tired, stop working, don't worry about it. That's not what it means at all. But it's a balance. So sometimes you give 80% because that's all you got. Sometimes you have a great day, you do 200% because you're just a beast. You're like, awesome, great. But that's the trade-off. That's the balance that we're trying to hit. And ironically, that's the funny thing about AI, right? It's promising a world in which productivity is limitless. But what happens when productivity is limitless? It becomes kind of worthless because it's just a commodity, right? So being able to write 50,000 words a minute, which is what ChatGPT can do, is such a vast productivity level that it's actually worthless. It's not actually worth anything because the supply level is off the charts. So the question then is, who's going to read that? And the answer is no one, right? So therefore, what's the value of that productivity? It's not useful. So you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so
no,
what
no,
I'm
no,
saying is like
no, I
it's all a
understand.
balance.
Yeah, it is. It's all about the balance, and it's also, ultimately we're human beings, not robots. So that is a key. And so just to finish, I'd just like to ask you this question. I think I've got a feeling I know where we're going to go with it. What is the best advice you'd give to an 18-year-old you?
Well, the first piece of advice I would give 18-year-old me is never go to a job that you don't like. That's the first piece of advice. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. And the second piece of advice is follow the general direction of what makes you happy, and you will find what you're looking for. That's that, the general direction, right? You're walking through a park, and from this side, it smells of sewage, and on this side, it smells of barbecue, beautiful barbecue. Which way are you going to walk? Walk in the general direction of the barbecue. Something's good's happening. You don't know where it is, but it's generally go that way. Just keep following that instinct, and you will find something worth doing. Because the thing is, like, most of us in Europe are born into the most privileged society that's ever existed. So therefore, you already have 99% of the possibilities that most people who have ever been born have never had. So therefore, if you just focus on being happy and follow your path, then you'll find something. You will. You will.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say to, and also buy shares in Amazon. That's the other thing I would say to my 18-year-old self.
25 years ago, yes. Anyway, that's another matter.
Not now, maybe not now,
Yeah,
but
I don't think I'd be speaking to you now, Julia. I'd definitely be on to Spain. So, but hey ho, never look back, always look forward. Thanks so much for your time. That was absolutely fascinating. Thank you.
thank you.